I think for artists, the eyes are some of the hardest features to paint, to draw on a human. And there are a lot of reasons for this, but I think the best way to teach this is not tell you how I do it specifically, but start pointing out features of the eye that maybe you haven't noticed or really thought about a lot. And how you interpret that as the artist will come out visually as you begin to draw and paint. So why don't we start thinking about how the eye is formed? And the eye, we don't really often think about this, but the eye is a sphere in a socket that has to move around. And we often don't think about the eye being a sphere. And when we draw a sphere, it's so easy for us. We just kind of start thinking about what a sphere is. It's basically it's a circle, right? With form in a three-dimensional space. So if we start off with a circle and we say that a light source is coming down from this direction, and it would have a shadow coming down on this side, and the highlights would be up here. And, this is something that we have probably seen before as artists. This seems to make a little bit more sense. But what do we do when we have a sphere that is not matte? Okay, so right now this paper is matte. It doesn't have a glossy surface to it. You can see my nails have a glossy surface to it because it has the reflection. So why don't we take a look at three balls that we're all familiar with? And the first one being a tennis ball. Okay, so a tennis ball is a sphere, but because of its texture, and its texture is very soft and fuzzy, right? So because it's very soft and fuzzy, we're not going to get that reflection on this ball. And if you were to draw or paint this, you would have to think about how do we get the soft effect onto the sphere. The next one that I have is slightly different but similar. So this one is an art example ball. This is something I just always have had in my classrooms. And it's matte. It's slightly fuzzy. I don't know if you can see that, but it's not as fuzzy as a tennis ball, but it's very matte. There's no gloss to it, but this kind of gives you a great example of how it would look with light shining down on it. So I have two, or actually three different sources of light at this very moment in time. I have one light source coming from this direction, and I have one coming from this direction, and then I have a fill light coming from the window outside. It's daytime right now. So as you may be able to see, I have a few different shadows coming from different directions because as the strength of the light is shining, it's going to cast different shadows. So I don't know if you can notice this, but I can tell that the strongest light source is actually coming from the opposite direction of the shadow. So here's the shadow, which means that my light source would be pretty much where that arrow is, right off camera, so you guys can see it kind of be coming this way. So when it comes to figuring out where your shadows and where your highlights and your midtones would be, I kind of like to think of everything as being sort of in the midtone range first. Like you can really just fill this whole thing in with a basic, hold on, let me get something. One of the reasons why we fill our paper first with color or a value of like some sort of middle range is when you have that filled, then it's so much easier to either add highlights in with a lighter valued paint or to go darker with your shadow. One of the misconceptions about eyes is that they're completely white. And if we just get rid of that idea, instead of just keeping your painting or drawing your eyes completely white, it's better to keep it in a very middle range value first. And then from there, everything that you draw around it, because this, like for instance, over here, if you can tell the white of the eye is very gray, right? But because this is so much darker, then this appears a lot lighter in value. Okay, so next we're gonna go to our third ball, and we have this one. It's a soccer ball, and you can see the glares on it. It has reflection. So this is a glossy surface. And when we're thinking about the surface of our eye ball, it's glossy, right? It has to be wet in order for your eyelid to close on top of it with no problems. Like when you have dry eyes, it's really hard to close your eyes, or it's hard to open them. When you have dry eyes, it's very hard to even move the eyeball around the socket. So we always have to think that we're going to be having two different types of surface. Like we have the skin is a matte surface and the eyeball is very glossy and wet. And so because we have those two things, how do we paint that? How do we convey that? So one of the things that we can do is think about reflection. And what would be a reflection that we would see in the eye? One of the things that we notice most often is like the light that we see coming from the eyes. When we look at photographs, it's very easy to like, oh, look, if you see this, it's like the same photographer, the highlight is pretty much all in the same place, meaning that like the photographer had a light source coming kind of like to an angle, but to the front, and then they're shooting it. But oftentimes when we take a picture of our subject out and about, like in nature, we're going to be getting a lot of different reflections in the eye. And we're also going to be getting a lot of different shadows. So how I kind of like to think of this is, let's first think of our sphere. Okay. So we have like this big ball, and we say like our light source is coming here. Now there's going to be a problem with this light source if we have something in the way of it, right? And one thing that we have in the way is a eyelid. Now the eyelid, there is some depth to it, okay? So we have this part of the eyelid too, that's actually the thickness of the eyelid. And then we have on top of here where the eyelashes would be. Now I see a lot of beginners tend to make their eyelashes go kind of straight up like this, which tends to be unnatural because if we think about it, your eyelashes are going to be curling up. So if they curl up, they're going to have to kind of dip down first before they go up. And when they meet each other, they start to form some clumps here. So your eyelashes are going to cast a reflection and a shadow into the eyeball. So that's something that you're going to want to pay attention to, is like how would that reflection look in the eyeball? Next up, this actual top lid is going to cast a shadow onto the top part of the eyeball as well. So we have to think about the top part of the eyeball. Like if you can see here, this eyelid is casting a shadow onto the eyeball. The eyeball is round, so we can kind of see like how big the eyeball would be about here. This eyelid is going to cast a shadow, and you can see that it's right there. And let's see here. We have the second thing here is the bottom lid. We have this water line right here, which is a lot lighter. So you have to think about how would you create a water line. Sometimes creating a water line at the bottom is as simple as making the eyeball a little bit darker and then the water line lighter. Let's see if I can start shaping something here. I'm not even going to talk about the iris and pupil just yet. We're just going to think about the structure of the eye. And I don't know if you noticed, but I'm drawing with a blending stump. I'm not drawing with a pencil. This is so harsh that this is something this line is so harsh, and even harsher than that is this one. This line like this, how thin it is and how you wouldn't be using these lines for building the structure for your eye. But when it comes time to adding your eyelashes or adding maybe not all of it, but like a certain part of the eyelash, you can get detailed and that's going to make it pop forward. So every part of portrait painting is a delicate balance of highlights, midtones, shadows, and a delicate balance between blurriness and extremely detailed and hard elements. And when you can play with those two, then you create the illusion of depth and space on a 2D surface. And when it comes to painting portraits, we're really trying to give the illusion that this person is alive and that they're not just a perfectly still frame in front of us. And because we're constantly moving, we're seeing everything sort of with a slight blur effect to it. So in this painting, I made this part of the face, this part right here, super, super focused, like as if you had a camera and you took the lens and you made it like hyper focused, and then it kind of blurred out here. And by doing that, it creates this three-dimensional effect where anything that is hyper focused looks like it is closer to you. And if it gets a little bit blurred or blurred out, it falls into the distance a little bit more. So this is another effect that you can play with as you go. And keep in mind too, again, with the eye, there's not too much detail in the iris. I think I love adding the most detail in my paintings personally with like the whites of the eyes, a lot of blues in there. The eyelashes I have fun playing with. Some of them come down, some of them pull back up again. But yeah, it's not like I'm not focusing too much on, it looks like detail when you pull it away. But sometimes when we add too many tiny dots or tiny patterns or textures, it can look a little bit jarring. Now I was able to add a lot of texture here, but I was able to add a lot of texture here because they're so close in range of value. Like they're very close. It's not like super light and super dark. It's like very much in the middle range. And the colors are very close together in the range as well. It's not like red and blue. They're all very subtle glazings of that. So we have to start thinking about the highlight now. Where is that going to be? So if I'm using my blending stump, we're going to have a little bit of the shape of a sphere even at this part of the upper eyelid. Like that. And it's going to get darker when it curves away from the light around here. Now this is not, I'm not like working from an example, but so now we're going to be thinking about, since this upper eyelid is creating a shadow, we're going to have a little bit of shadow in this area of the iris and the pupil, and we can always add in maybe a light source coming from over here. But then the bottom part of this is going to be a lot lighter in color because of the light shining down. We have tear ducts right here. And let's start thinking about the line of the eyes. They're all going to be different. Some are going to be curved and some are going to be more angled. Some kind of come down a little bit. And then we're going to be thinking about the shape of the lower lid. So in this painting that I did, I played with a balance of blurriness. I don't have too much detail in the actual iris. I think sometimes that can make it look a little bit less realistic when you have too much detail in the iris. What I focused more on was the white of the eye. And you can tell that I made it glossy by adding that little line of water on that, the water line or whatever. I focused on the pigment here of pinks and purples, and then more orangey red colors. And here I kind of focused on the warm orangey reds compared to the more violets over here. So it's really a play of hard, crisp lines and not so much like crispy, just more blurred together blending of different colors. I don't want you to get intimidated by this either, because I'm not expecting you to be at this level. This took me so many portraits to get to this point. But the more portraits you do, you start to figure out these tiny little details and nuances. Something to keep in mind here too, when it comes to painting eyebrows, I usually just block in the basic shape of the eyebrow first. And then from there, I take some of that neutral color, whether it's like a middle tone color or value, and then start pulling away some of the eyebrows with a small brush by basically adding the skin back in. So I don't know if that makes sense. Instead of always adding the hairs, I kind of take my paintbrush and add skin back in between to give it a separation between eyebrows sometimes. And then since she had such thick eyebrows, I was able to really play with some of the highlights on the top of the eyebrows where there really was a curvature. There was a harsh, direct light on top of her eyebrow. And I was able to play with, the highlights, midtones, and shadows of that very specific hair. So it all depends on your face structure. And this is something that you're really going to want to pay attention to, is what do the shadows look like underneath the eyeball? Now here, because his eye socket kind of goes in a little bit, we're going to be getting a shadow underneath that lower lid, and same with hers right here. But not everybody has that. And also depending on the lighting, you may not see it. Like for instance, with this woman, the lighting is pretty much straight on. She's very evenly lit. So this is going to look very nice and smooth. And she might have that shadow on other days, because you can tell right here, there is a defined line from her eye socket, but it really depends on the lighting. So for her, as you're going to notice something, her upper lip is very light. And then up here is the shadow. So not only is the light straight up, it's lower shooting up. So I'd say it's almost like shooting up at an angle, because look, this is all in highlight. That is in shadow, meaning you're going to get very soft under eyes and you're going to get your shadow here. It really does change the look completely of this woman if the shadow was coming down this direction. This one makes you a little bit look like slightly more tired. This one makes you look a little bit more awake. So these are also good techniques and tricks if you are filming your subject in person. Like say before you paint your subject, you want to look at a reference photo of them. This is going to be a really good trick for you.